Twilio Studio is a visual editor for creating Twilio applications. It works by dragging and dropping widgets that represent parts of the Twilio API, and then connecting them together to create an application. If you can draw your application, chances are you can build it with Twilio Studio. In a previous application, we built a barista bot that responded to an incoming text message with a prompt for a coffee order. When the user responded with their coffee order, we simply logged it out to the screen. In this video, we're going to use Twilio Functions and Twilio Sync to create an actual barista ordering system. Once the order has been entered into Twilio Sync, it'll show up in a React web application in front of the barista. The application looks like this. The user still sends in the same text messages they did before, just this time when they send in their drink order, it will appear immediately on screen for the barista. When the barista comes through later and finishes the order, a text message gets sent back to the user so that they can come pick up their coffee. Let's see how easy it is to take our simple barista system and turn it into a fully functioning barista system with Twilio Functions, Twilio Sync, and Twilio Studio. Here's our barista bot Twilio Studio flow from the previous video. We start with an order prompt as a response to an incoming text message, and then we ask them what they want. And if they say latte, cappuccino, americano, cortado, or cold brew, we called a Twilio function that simply logged the drink that we passed in, and then confirmed with an SMS. If they didn't order a correct drink, we went down a path where we ultimately called them. It's this Twilio function up here called coffee order that we want to fix. Instead of passing in a parameter called drink, we'll pass in something called order because that'll match the code that we're going to write. Then we'll pass in the phone number that they sent the incoming text message from. That's contact.channel.address. And we'll add that to the function. Now we'll head over to Twilio Functions and take a look at our coffee order function. You'll see it doesn't do too much. It just logs out the drink and says, put your code here. That's the code we're going to write today with Twilio Sync. Head down to the Twilio Sync product under Developer Tools and create a new sync service. I'm going to call mine Barista Sync and then click Create. You can call this whatever you want. But the most important thing to grab out of here is this service SID. We're going to save this in a Twilio Functions environment variable, so head back over to the runtime and into Twilio Functions, and click Configure. Here's all your environment variables. You'll want to add one called sync_service_SID, and paste in the SID from your sync service you just created, and make sure you have this enable account SID and auth token checkmark checked. Click Save here, and we'll head back over to our Twilio function. So I'll go back to the manage, give me my list of functions, and click on our coffee order function that we created before. And we're just going to get rid of all of this code and write something new. Our coffee order function is going to add a list item into a Twilio Sync list called orders that will be created by our React client. That's going to be stored inside of our Twilio Sync service that we just created, so we also need our service SID variable that we just put in environment variables. We'll pull the order data out of the parameters that were passed in and create an order data object. So that's going to have the event.order and event.phone number properties, as well as a status property that we'll add to the object that indicates whether the order is open, finished, or canceled. Next, we need to create a list item inside of this list, so we need a Twilio REST client to get access to that list. We'll call Twilio client.sync to access our service, passing in the service SID, and then we'll access the orders list and create a list item inside of it, passing in the order data that we created above. If the list item successfully saves, then we'll return successfully from this function. Alternatively, if there are any errors, we'll catch them and return the error instead. Excellent, so that's all we need for this Twilio function. So go ahead, go down and save that. Once your function is successfully deployed, head over to the terminal and use npx create-react-app to create a React app called Barista. Head into the Barista directory and run npm start to fire up the development server and show the default React app, letting us know that everything's working correctly. Okay, leave the development server running and open up a new tab in your terminal, and we'll use npm to install and save the Milligram CSS framework. This provides some basic styling for common elements and is just a great place to start for some clean styles. Once that's done, we'll run npm install just to catch any dependencies that might have been missed so far. We'll open our application up in a text editor and head to index.js. We'll get rid of the index.css and we'll add the Milligram CSS. Then we'll head over to the app.js file, get rid of the logo SVG and the default apps HTML. We'll create a div with a role of main and an h1 of barista, and save and head over to the browser and take a look. Okay, everything's working so far. Let's go back and create a new file under source components, and we'll call it orderentry.js. We'll import React, and we'll also import some order entry CSS that we'll paste in a moment. Our order entry is going to be a functional component that takes in a order and onCancel and onFinished as props. The order entry component will be responsible for displaying the order as well as canceling and finishing the order, so let's create the markup that'll be used to display an order. We'll start with a div with a class name of order entry, then create one for order details. This is going to contain the order number and the status of the order, as well as a paragraph underneath the H4 that'll just display the drink name, so that's order.order, whether they had a latte or a cappuccino, etc. Underneath that is going to be a div for order options. This is going to be a couple of buttons, one for finishing the order when the barista is done making the drink, and another button for canceling the order if the order no longer needs to be made. That's going to have a class name of button clear just to have some styling, and it's going to call on cancel and say cancel order. Excellent. All we need to do now is export out the order entry. Next, I'll create a new file called orderentry.css. I'm just going to paste in some CSS that'll be available in the GitHub. Now, we'll head back to our app.js. We'll import our order entry component that we just created. Let's update our app component so that it's able to display a list of order entry components. We'll start in the constructor because we need order entry to be able to call finish order and cancel order on our app component. So we'll create those to bind to the app's context. Finish order and cancel order for now will both just log out to the console finished or canceled when they're pressed from the order entry. Heading down into our render function, let's add a div to hold our order list. Inside of this div, we will create an order entry, and we'll start with a sample order that has a status of open, an order of espresso, and a number of 42. On cancel, we'll call this .cancel order, and on finished, we'll call this .finish order. Excellent. Give this a save and head over to the browser. You should see the order display. You can click finish and cancel to see the events logged out to the console. For our React app to be able to work with sync, you're going to need an API key and an API secret. If you don't already have one, come over to API keys inside of runtime and create one. Give it whatever name you want. The most important thing is to save the key and the secret that you get on the next page. Come back to your function configuration and add your API key and API secret as environment variables. Now create a new blank Twilio function. We'll use this to fetch a sync token. You can think of the sync token as the thing that gives you access to the club that is Twilio Sync. It'll basically say that our application is allowed to access our Twilio Sync service. We'll start by getting the account SID for our Twilio account out of environment variables. Then we'll need the service SID, the API key, and the API secret. So those are all the credentials we need to be able to access Twilio Sync to get a token. We'll also give this a temporary identity of barista. We'll create a new access token using twilio.jwt.accessToken, and we'll create a sync grant, which will grant the permissions to the client to access sync. We'll create a new sync grant based on the service SID for our service, and then we'll create a new access token for our account SID, API key, API secret, and add the sync grant to it. We'll set the identity on the token to the identity we declared above, and in the response that we'll create with twilio.response, we'll be passing back that token. Since this is an API call from a client, we also need to set up headers. Standard headers that say application JSON based on a GET request from anywhere is fine. And we'll set the body to the token that we just created, and we'll set the headers that we just declared above. Next, we can call back from our Twilio function, passing the response. Save your function and head back to the terminal once it's deployed, and we'll use npm to install the Twilio sync module, which we'll use to interact with our Twilio sync list, and the event emitter ES6 module, which we're going to use to emit events when our data is updated inside of our application. Speaking of data, we'll create a file called orders.js under /src/data. We'll import the sync client and event emitter objects from their respective modules. And we're first going to need our token URL. That's the barista token function that we just wrote in Twilio Functions. And we also need the name of our list, which is orders. Then we'll create an orders class, which extends event emitter. We're going to create a shared instance of this orders class. So we'll set that to new orders if it's not already declared. Then we'll create our constructor, setting up some properties. We have a client, we have an order list, and we'll have a set of orders. Now that we have our properties declared, let's initialize the orders object. First, if it's already been initialized, we can just return the instance we already have. Otherwise, we need to fetch a Twilio sync token using our token URL. And if the response that comes back from that is not okay, then we'll throw an error saying we couldn't fetch the token. Otherwise, we have a valid token, so let's pull it out of the JSON that came back in that response. We'll use the token to create a Twilio sync client, use the client to grab the order list out of our sync service, and then with the function we're about to write called fetch orders, we'll grab the orders from that list and return them. Let's write the fetch orders function. It's going to grab a page of 1,000 orders by calling this.orderlist.getItems with a page size of 1,000. Then we'll map over the items in the list and return an array where we have objects that have the order number and the order, which is the drink, latte, espresso, etc., and the status of the item. Heading back over to app.js, we can import our orders class from data/orders. Then down in the constructor, we'll get access to the orders.shared instance and store it in this.order service. And we'll set the state to be an empty array called orders. When our app component loads in component will mount, we'll fetch the orders by initializing the order service. Then we'll set the state to the orders that come back from that initialization. Down inside the render function, instead of our sample order, we're going to instead loop over our orders inside of the state, and for each one, we'll render out an order entry. We'll set the key to the entry's number. We'll set the order property equal to the entry that we're looping through. Then we'll set onCancel and onFinished to this.cancelOrder and this.finish order. Heading back to the browser, we can take our phone back out and send an order again. This time, after we send in the order, we can hit refresh in the browser and see the order pop up. Let's head back and into orders.js and add some real-time functionality so that we don't have to refresh the browser. Right after we call this.fetchOrders in orders.init, let's add some event listeners. We'll write that function in just a moment. Down in the fetchOrders function, we're going to need to map items to orders frequently, so we'll refactor this so that we have a convertItemToOrder function. Now, in the add event listeners function, this is where we're going to use that convertItemToOrder a lot. We're going to be listening for some events on the sync list. One of those is item added. What we're going to do here is grab the item that was added out of the event data. We're going to add it to our this.orders array by converting it to an order. Then we're going to emit the updated event with the orders set to the new this.orders array. When we have an item updated event, that means that we have an existing item in our this.orders that needs to be updated. So we'll take the item that was updated and convert it to an order. We'll grab the index of the item in our existing orders array that matches it. So that'll be the order.number matches existing item.number. Then we'll copy our existing array, and then we'll index into that copy and set the one at the index that matched to the new order. Then we'll set this.orders equal to the new orders and emit our updated event passing in the orders. Finally, we also need to respond to when an item is removed from the list. So we'll once again grab the item out of the event data and convert it to an order. We will find the index once again that matches that order in our existing array. Then we'll make a copy of our existing orders array and splice out the index of the new item. Then we'll set our orders equal to the new orders and once again emit the updated event passing in the new orders list. Finally, let's write that convert item to order function that takes in an item as a parameter. It just returns out an object that has the item's number, order, and status value, which is what we expect for an order. Heading back to app.js, we're going to need a function to call on the app when the orders are updated. So we'll call that this.updateOrders. Then we're going to need to listen for the order service's updated event that we just emitted from the orders class. Our update orders function will be called whenever an item is added, updated, or removed, and it'll simply set the state equal to the orders that are passed in from that update. Heading back to the browser, we can send another text message into our ordering system, and as soon as we place the order, it'll appear immediately inside the browser without refreshing. Now, when an item is finished or canceled, we'll want to remove it from the sync list, but when that happens, we'll also want to have a webhook trigger to send an SMS to the user. So we need to create a new function to use as the webhook for our sync service. We'll name it Notify Coffee or Coffee Notification, because this is what's going to send the notification out to the user. We'll first check the event type and the event list name to check to make sure that we're receiving a list item updated for our particular orders list. If neither of those are the case, then we'll exit early from this function. If we're looking at the right list and the right order type, then we'll pull the status, phone number, and order out of the event item data. We'll set the order number equal to the item index on the event. If the status is not equal to finished or canceled, then again, we'll exit early from this function. Otherwise, we need to send a notification to the user. So we'll set up a message. The message will inform the user that their order with an order number for the type of drink that they ordered has either been finished or canceled. Then we'll create a Twilio REST client by grabbing it out of the context, and we'll use it to send a text message. That'll be sent to their phone number from our phone number, which we'll set up in an environment variable in a moment, and we'll set the body equal to the message we just created. When that message is successfully sent, we'll use the Twilio REST client to remove the sync list item from our sync list by calling .services, passing in the service SID, calling .syncList, passing in the list unique name, and then accessing the order number in the sync list items and removing it. Once that's finally done, we'll call back from the function. Once again, if there's been any errors along the way, we'll catch them and return those instead. Save the function, and let's head to the configure section, and if you don't already have one, you'll need to add an environment variable for phone_number and put in the phone number for your Twilio application that you used with your Studio Flow earlier. Head back to your sync service, and where the webhook URL is, you'll want to add the URL for the function that we just created. Once everything's saved, you can head back to your browser and click Finish Order on the first order, and you'll send a notification, and then cancel for the second order, and a notification will be sent for that order as well. That's going to do it for this video. We built a React web client that displays coffee orders that come into a SMS barista system in real time. The barista can complete the drink and then click Finish, and a notification is sent via text message back to the user's phone. Can't wait to see what you build with Twilio Studio, Twilio Sync, and Twilio Functions. Let us know down in the comments if you're building something cool, and we'll check it out. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, click the Twilio logo in the bottom left. If you want to check out Twilio Studio, there's a button in the bottom right for that. If you want to watch another video, I picked one out just for you. Until next time, I'm out of here.